everyone. We're so glad that you are here today. We are in for a treat. I see a lot of new faces. I'm glad you're here today, and some familiar faces that are back again, and we're happy that you're here. My name's Canty Smith. I'm Director of Education here at Telus Science Museum, and we do have evaluation sheets on the table, so before you leave today, if you could give us some input, we really do pay attention. We collect all that data, and it really has great value to us. So thank you for considering filling that out. And we are just happy that you are here. One of the distinctive features, if you will, for our speaker today is he's an individual who I have gotten to know over the years. And this is like, I tried to think back of my initial membership. It's got to be over 10 years. But we never really got to know each other very well until probably more or less just recently, because Lawrence and Shirley, his lovely wife, who supports him in his endeavors and is involved with him on that, especially over rock shows. This is how we have bonded. So this is some of my background as well. But I will also want to mention one of our educators here, and I think Lynn's at the back. Yep, Lynn Avery's at the back there, one of our part-time educators here. Lynn came in from a club meeting one morning and said, "Oh my gosh, I heard the best lecture last night." So no high praise or no high pressure, but you are in for a treat to hear as you have an opportunity to hear Lawrence Parker speak about his experience and his trip, one of his trips out west. He's a great rock hound. He has all kinds of interesting background and experiences as he's gone out and he's collected. And as you can see, we've got some fun touch pieces up here today as well. So if everyone would please join me in welcoming Lawrence Parker.
I appreciate that. All right, guys, y'all give me just a second here. I'm going to get my phone turned on because I have a time limit. It's something I'm not used to, so it's something I've got to deal with. And I heard evaluation sheets. I really didn't know I was getting graded on this, so y'all be gentle. I've really been looking forward to this. Before I go any further, I got to thank Miss Lynn Avery. She's the one that invited me or made it possible for me to be here today. So thank you, Miss Lynn. We have been looking forward to this. By we, I mean me and my family, because David and I had a ball, and that's what I'm here to talk to y'all about. If y'all are looking for a technical talk, I'm sorry. But if y'all are looking for some guys that had a good time, you're in the right place. I'd like to back up a little bit and kind of give you a little context. Shirley, my wife, and I were on a rock hunt in Tennessee several years ago. She found a rock that was this big, and she said, "I want that rock." And I told her, I said, "Well, we're in the middle of a creek, and we're a quarter mile from the truck, and that thing weighs 300 pounds. Only a fool's going to try to get that thing home." 10 minutes later, I look up, and I hear kapoosh, kapoosh. David is rolling this big rock down the river, and so I walked over, I helped him get it up the bank, and we got it in his truck, and it is now one of 1,000 in his yard. But that's how David and I met. And we became buddies right away. We rock hunted together several times. And about a year ago, it was a year ago this right now, my wife and I were in Franklin, North Carolina at a rock show, and we ran into David, which happens quite often. But this time David said, "Hey, you want to go to California in October?" And I immediately said yes, and then I caught myself and said, "Shirley, can I go to California in October?" And she said, "We'll see what we can do." So through the grace of God, we were able to work it out. I was able to go with David. We took off on a 2-week road trip that was not to be believed. And that's what I'm here to talk to y'all about today. I named the trip, the talk, California or Bust. Our plan was to go to California. We were going to rock hunt all the way up and all the way back and have as much fun as we could. We decided the best way to do it would be to take David's truck. It's a little newer than mine, and we would take my trailer. I've got a 12-foot enclosed trailer, and we were hoping that that would be enough to get all of our finds home. And it turned out it worked out really good. So what we did was we took off, and we left. David lives in Bethlehem, So I met David at his house, and we took off, and we headed to Oklahoma. And these two quick slides here don't look like much, but that represents about 1,000 miles. And we went first off to the Great Salt Plains in Oklahoma. Now, this place is famous for its selenite. And selenite is a really fun mineral to find. So we were really looking forward to it. And David and I have both been rock hounding for a few years. And places like Jett, Oklahoma, you hear the name a lot because it is famous for the mineral, which is a good thing because there is nothing else in Jett, Oklahoma. They have one stop sign in Jett, Oklahoma. We actually learned something. If you come up on a sign in Oklahoma that says improved country road, yeah, in Georgia they call that a pig trail. Have you ever hit a rut so hard that all you could do was turn and look at each other? It was a trip. The first thing we found out, though, that neither one of us were aware of is that the park where the campground is about, what would you say, David, 15, 20 minutes from the dig site itself? So, and that's if you go the improved trails. Apparently you can go paved the whole way, but that would have cost us another 4 minutes or something, and we weren't going to give up that kind of time. So if you've never been to Jett, Oklahoma, the prize you're after is selenite crystals. And we did a lot of research on this trip, and by we I mean David. But they say that the way to find selenite is you go out to these salt flats and you dig a hole a couple feet deep, and if you're lucky, you'll hit water. And you take this water and you splash it on the sides of the hole you dug, and it'll start washing out the crystals. So that was our plan. It rained. Doesn't rain a whole lot in Jett, Oklahoma. Apparently when it does it all at once. We had 13 and a half inches of rain that night. Yeah, I grew up in Louisiana where it rains around the clock. I have never been through 13 and a half inches of rain in a row. It was a considerable amount of rain, but it worked out to our advantage. If you're going to Jett to hunt, check your time schedule because the park closes. We were actually there the last week it was open. They shut down for a time period because there's a bird called a tern that nests in these things, which is, I mean, this is what it looks like. So to imagine something nesting out there is pretty incredible. But we did talk to a park ranger, and they've got signage out there, and the rockhounds actually help the terns because as you're digging your hole, you make a pile. And the terns come behind you, and they make their nest on these piles because it keeps them out of the water. So, again, we were excited. We get out there, 13 and a half inches of rain, so we knew we didn't have to bring any water with us, which was a plus. But when we got out there, I mean, it was just raining. It was still raining. You don't travel 1,000 miles and then stay in the tent because it rained. You go out and you rock hunt as well. So that's what we did. So we get out there, and it's just, you can see forever. They don't call it flat for nothing. I mean, you can see forever. And we were the only two out there. As it was, with all that rain, there was water just everywhere. Now, normally, the park ranger told us that normally all this was dry. But as you can see, it was far from dry. And so we go to the dig area. Now, there are areas that are off limits. They kind of tend to rotate where you can dig. But guys, this is what we started finding. What happened was, is you go out there, you're supposed to dig down a couple feet. Well, your dirt pile, your tailings pile, it's full of selenite as well. With all the rain that they had, it had washed out all the sand and salt, and there were piles of selenite everywhere you look. Now, this particular selenite, they refer to it as hourglass selenite because you can see the brown in it. What you're looking for specifically is a piece that has an hourglass shape inside of it. And it's really cool to find, and we had a ball looking for it. So we're out there digging, and I mean, it's everywhere. It was just everywhere. Everywhere you looked. We were out there, and the park ranger shows up, And he's standing there talking to us, and he's like, yeah, guys, what you want to do is you want to dig down and you want to try to find a piece that, oh, it looks like this right here. And he picks one up and he hands it to us, and he says, oh, and look, here's one right here. I said, man, look around. He's like, crap, they're everywhere. He said, I've never seen this before. The ground was littered with them. I mean, absolutely littered with them. It was to the point that it was almost too easy. So we picked up, but, too easy is relative. So for the first hour or so, man, we're just pick. But we wanted the experience that everybody had told us about, what we'd read about digging the hole and washing them out. So even though they'd had 13 and a half inches of rain that night, and everything was flooded when we got there, the ranger explained to us that the area is at a taper and that the water would eventually run off. And sure enough, over the course of the day, the water drained down enough that we were able to dig a couple of holes, and we definitely hit water when we did. And so we got the true experience. And that was really neat, because we found out that when you did that, you started finding blades that were intertwined and grown together. You found clusters. What we found laying on the ground tended to be mostly single blades. But as we dug down, we started to find clusters. Now, just to back up a little bit and tell you something about David, when you go rock hunting with David, plan on getting your butt kicked. This man will I find a cluster, he finds a cluster. So, but it's cool because that way you get to at least see some pretty stuff. So we went through and we collected, and we wound up with a whole bunch of these pieces. Between the two of us, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we probably brought back 1,000 pieces. 1,000 pieces of this stuff. So now you got 1,000 pieces of selenite, and it's actually illegal to sell this stuff. And the reason being, if they put a price on it, it becomes valuable. People will go in and destroy the park looking for it. So what they do is they say it's illegal to sell it. And so the only way you can actually obtain it legally is if you go get it yourself or if somebody gives you some. And as it is, I figure most of y'all aren't going to make it to Jet this weekend. So I have brought a whole box of selenite and that I'm going to set out on the table, and I'd love for everybody to take one. There's more than enough to go around, but y'all do me a favor and just grab one, because my favorite part of rock hunting, believe it or not, is giving the pieces away after I get back. That is a big thrill to me. I love getting kids involved in rock hunting, and I have found that kids can be up to 70. So I love giving the stuff away. So please, I'd love for everybody to grab one, but leave some for the next guy too. So, salt flats. We found a piece of salt. Know it's salt because David and I both tasted it. Hell, that's the most scientific way. Oh yeah, that's salt. Unfortunately, it didn't make it home with us, and it's actually not much bigger than your thumb. I mean, it was just a small piece. But after like 7 or 8 hours on the salt flat, it was nice to find a piece of salt. This is just a shot of David's box when we were just there for an hour or two. And if you look, you can see a lot of twinned pieces in there. Y'all's view is a lot better than mine. But like right in here, this one's intergrown. And most of these in this box are indeed twinned and are clusters. So again, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So David and I were there to have fun. And believe me, we did. So then we took off from there. Y'all, sorry about that. Apparently my beard and this microphone don't quite get along. But we left there and we headed to New Mexico. Now, David and I decided that the best way to do this was we rock hunted during the day, and then we drove at night. We didn't spend a whole lot of time in campgrounds or that kind of thing because we were excited about getting to the next place. So we'd rock hunt all day. The campground would have a shower. We'd take a shower. We'd load up, and we would take off, and we'd swap out driving until we got to where we were going. We got to see some beautiful country. I'd never been out west before. Most of the country we saw, unfortunately, was either right at dawn or right at dusk because we were on the road all night long. Still a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun driving, always on the lookout for wildlife. And this is probably one of the most exotic creatures we saw on our trip. Not that we weren't looking. We did see a bunny rabbit. Remember the bunny rabbit? But outside of that, just kind of local wildlife. And you can see we were going to places that were out, away from civilization. We headed to New Mexico, and we bought some, the books, what do they call them? Gym trail books that tell you local areas to go digging. We learned that if you buy one of those books, and it is more than, a week and a half old, it's probably out of date. The first one we got, it sent us, we went to look for pyrite. And I can't say David found some pyrite, but it was the size of match heads. It was embedded in boulders that were the size of the truck. But we got to see pyrite, yay. So we got the book, we looked through, we found another one, we went to that location, and we told the guy, it was actually at a, what would you call, like a national park or
monument
something?
or
A national monument. So we get there, and the guy was kind of, y'all got a trailer, there's not much room. It's like, we're not here to see the monument. We're going to go to this road, and we're going rock hunting. And he said, that road's been closed since the flood of '09. So again, you buy these trail guides, get them with a grain of salt because they don't stay accurate for very long. But luckily, David had, and again, all credit goes to David because I have no experience with this, but David had already contacted several of the mineral clubs in the areas we were going to be in, and most of them were really great. They responded to him. They sent us information on places to go, things to see, things to do, and they had told David about a copper mine, an abandoned copper mine. So that's where we went. And David, what was the name of that mine again, bud?
Nacimiento.
Nacimiento. And this is right outside of, I don't know if they pronounce it Cuba or Cuba, but it was right outside of, I'm going to pronounce it Cuba, New Mexico. Oh my gosh, guys. You talk about incredible. We went, and David has brought some of his specimens, and I've got a few of them laying up here of my own. I highly encourage y'all to come check these out. And when we get done, we found petrified wood that had been replaced with malachite. David found petrified wood that had been replaced with azurite. And I mean, it was just an incredible experience. But again, when you're hunting with David, you got to take everything in stride. Because we had heard about what they call azurite balls, which are what they sound like. They're a little ball of azurite. So after an hour or so, I found one. I was really excited because I finally beat David. I found something first. I found an azurite ball, and it was about the size of a sweet pea. And I've actually got it up in here. Y'all are welcome to come look at it. Again, it wasn't very big, but it was cool. It was the first one I found. And then I made the comment. I said, that was fun. Now we need to find one the size of a grape. 4 minutes later, I hear, hey, Lawrence, I found one the size of a grape. And the day just continued like that. I mean, we had more fun, but it was copper minerals. And if you look at this picture, everything you see is dump piles. This is one of the specimens I picked up. This is azurite and malachite. And we didn't do any digging. We surface collected out there. I honestly feel that if we had had the time, there's no telling what we would have found. We were there for a day, and we hunted, and we came back with buckets full of stuff. And like a lot of rock trips, you get to where you have to high grade, because we did have the truck and the trailer, but we still had several thousand more miles to go. So we came out with some really pretty stuff. Again, these are some of the dump piles, and they were just as far as you can see. And we did like everybody else does. We got there, we saw a pretty rock, and that's where we started hunting. I really feel like if we had walked 100 more yards, we'd have probably got into some territory that hadn't been picked over. But, when you're finding petrified wood that's covered in azurite, That's not bad. That's not bad. We were definitely happy. But again, if I had the opportunity, and hopefully I will again, I'm going to spend a week there because it was very remote. We never saw anybody.
No.
Most of our digs were that way. When we were in Oklahoma, nobody. I think there was one other couple showed up and left. But that's kind of how it was. Now, David has coined a phrase that I think applies very well. People, when we would tell them, when you get out of state, that far out of state, and people ask what you're doing, you tell them you're hunting rocks, they automatically assume you're a dealer. So David coined the phrase hardcore enthusiast. And yeah, I can hear laughter over here because these guys know me. That sums it up good, doesn't it? Not professional in any sense of the means. We're not trying to earn a living at this. This was all about having fun, seeing what we could find, and just enjoying ourselves. Again, this is a piece of petrified wood that has malachite and azurite on it. I just took this shot at my feet. Yeah, this is just taking the camera and going click. That's what the ground was like. Now you can see why we didn't make it any further than the gates to the place. Stuff was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And it was, growing up in Louisiana, I was like 16 before I ever saw a rock, And then hunting here in Georgia, I've never stumbled on anything that looked like this, where you could just walk around and go, I'll take that one and these two, and just leave the rest for somebody else. It was unbelievable. These are just a few of the pieces that I found. This is on the fender of my truck. I really like azurite, as you might guess. I love the color, and on the green background, it is a really striking mineral. And this was also the first time I'd ever found azurite. First time I'd been out in that part of the country. It was the first time I'd been anywhere where there was azurite. So that's what this photo is. Got dark, time to head on. So we left there. We were headed headed towards Holbrook, Arizona. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier that I meant to, before we left on this trip, we knew we were going to be gone 2 weeks. David and I both know how we are. We're not going to stop and do laundry. So, yeah. So, actually, my wife and I went to Goodwill, and I bought like 9 pair of pants, 10 shirts, 6 pair of shoes. We went to Walmart. I bought 24 pair of cheap socks, some throwaway underwear, and when it got dirty, we just kind of left it behind. If you're going to take a 2-week road trip, I highly suggest you do this because you avoid laundromats and you avoid that funky smell you get after 2 days of clothes being in a bag. We're on the road again. Now, at this point, we're headed towards Arizona. I'm sorry. It'd been a day or two since we'd had a shower. And we were starting to get a little, lack of a better term, funky. So we decided to go to a truck stop where they have showers. Anybody here ever been to a truck stop shower? They're not cheap, are they? Oh, my goodness. We found out it was going to cost over $30 for the two of us to take a shower separately, of course. Didn't ask what it cost if we showered together. And some things you just don't save money on. At that point, we decided, you know what, if we throw in another $15, we can have a hotel with a bed and a TV. So that night we did stay in a hotel, and it was cool. It was very restful. Again, we're heading on. We're headed to Arizona. This is what we're after, petrified wood. Now, have y'all heard of the petrified forest there in Arizona? Very, very famous place. People travel all over to see it. The downside to the petrified forest is if you collect there, you go to jail there. And I didn't bring enough clothes, so we figured we weren't going to do that. So again, David had done a lot of research, and he found this place. I love this sign. This is one of my favorite signs. And they actually did have petrified wood there for $0.25. She actually had a bin of petrified wood there for $0.05. But this lady would have never charged you. She'd have been more than glad to hand it out to you. So we went to a place that David had found called Dobell Curios. Now, it says the date on there. I can't read it from here. I think it's 1936 or 39. 36? Okay. This lady's grandfather started this place in 1936. It's the oldest place where you can go and collect your own petrified wood. And if I had been pointed in the other direction, you would see the boundary for the forest right behind us. We were that close. So we get there. Again, you don't know what to expect. And there's phone numbers, so you call the phone number. It's just a little shack out there. And this lady named Rhonda comes out. She's about this big, must weigh 60 pounds. Sweetest lady in the world. Oh my gosh, what a nice lady. Well, you don't actually dig here. She takes you out to, she's got some acreage out in the middle of the desert that we followed her out there. And you get there, and there's petrified wood just laying everywhere. Pieces from this big to, oh man, that big piece. They'd actually found a piece there earlier, I guess it was the year before, that was 40,000 pounds?
40,000 pounds.
40,000 pound piece, which is about the size of a semi-trailer. They actually sold it to a guy up north who slabbed it and made tabletops out of it. But we're excited. We're here. You've got two options when you get there. You can pick it up. You can say, hey, I want this one, this one, this one. Or you can dig your own. We didn't drive all the way to Arizona to pick stuff up off the ground out there. We came to dig. So that's the route we took. We started digging. And the first thing I did was, because David and I are having fun, we're on this trip, but neither one of us are exceptionally wealthy. So I wanted to know what this stuff was going to cost us. And she wouldn't tell us. She just kind of, oh, I'll treat you right. Well, when we first got there, there was a piece that was probably this big sitting there. And, I mean, it was a beautiful piece. And I commented, I said, that's a neat piece. She said, well, I'll let you have it for $75. That was the only number she gave us. And so we're trying to judge what we've got based on the only knowledge we have is that one rock would have been $75. But she did tell us, now guys, anything you dig, you're not obligated to keep. She said, I can tell y'all are here to have fun. She said, you can dig the whole property up, take the ones you want, find somebody to come get the rest of them. So that was good to know that we weren't committed just because we dug it out. But we keep asking her, Rhonda, how much am I up to? Oh, I'm going to treat y'all right. Okay, so we dug, and this one, I don't know if y'all can see this. I don't blind myself. See this rim right here? This is a piece of petrified wood that I found. Yeah, this was a neat piece. So I'm digging it up, and I realize what I have found. So I holler over at David. I said, David, I have found a piece of petrified wood the size of a truck tire. He's like, all right. He says, I'm digging on something myself. He hollers back, I found a piece big as a wagon wheel. Crap, it figures. He beat me again. But we got this piece out, and it's the size of a truck tire. Beautiful piece. I went on and I found a couple of more big pieces. Now, this is a neat piece. It's about 20 inches tall, and it's just flooded with colors. Beautiful specimen. I was so tickled to find it. And then we got David's piece out. Now, this piece has been wet, so that's why it's got that gloss to it. But again, just stunning pieces. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, are we going to be able to afford them? You know, what is this going to end up costing us? And she just always said the same thing. We'll treat you right. We'll treat you right. So we just kept digging. We kept making piles of rock. And this is funny. Being from Georgia, y'all get a kick out of this. We're standing out there digging, and it felt like somebody turned a sprinkler on for like 10 seconds. It started raining. Rhonda comes running over to us. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Y'all had to put up with that. But you know y'all came during our rainy season. Their yearly rainfall is 6.5 inches. That's their average. But, yeah, we got right in the middle of the monsoon, and she was so glad it didn't ruin our trip for us. So we start collecting. We're piling, we're collecting. All right, Rhonda, we need to figure out what we're going to do now. What's this going to be? See, another big piece. Fuzzy picture, but there are pieces like this just laying around there. Okay, I got to tally up. What do I owe you? Now, at this point, I've got a pile of rock. I've got that big one. I've got the other big one, tons of small stuff. And she walks over, and David is still out doing a little collecting. I said, all right, add it up for me. So she stands there, and she looks at it. And she hems, she haws, she looks at me, she goes, how about $140? So I hollered at David, keep digging, man, keep digging. So he did, man. I went by and said, just keep this pile here. I'm going back. So we kept digging. End of the day, we wound up, her estimate, we had about 1,500 to 1,700 pounds of rock. Some of them as much as 400 pounds apiece. So we got this big pile of rock, but unfortunately it's still on the ground. We've got to get it in the trailer. So she gets her grandson to come help us. Her grandson was 13 years old, hoss of a fella. Been working with rocks a long time. And we're out in the desert, so it didn't matter that he was 13 and driving, but he had a lift on the bed of his truck. So he backed the truck up, and we start to roll this stuff on the truck, and they're like, back up, I got this. So David and I stand there and watch an 80-pound woman and a 13-year-old kid load up 1,500 pounds of rocks that we just found. Great, that was phenomenal. I asked the boy, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I said, so do you like rocks? Oh, no, I don't like rocks at all. He liked sand drag racing. That was his thing. But nice guy, great people. I think we give him like $20 to help load up. He was tickled to death. We let him go through with some of the stuff we'd already found in Oklahoma and New Mexico, and gave him some specimens. Because, guys, that's what rock hounds do. We share. We really do. I've met some people that were more hoarders. Nah, that's not our style. Let's have fun with this. Let's spread it out and just have a good time. So we get all our rocks loaded, and now we're headed out again. We're headed to California, and away we go. We looked for 3 days for this burro. Never did find him, but I've never seen a burro crossing sign, so I took a picture of this one. This is in California. Now, I've never been to California before. So when you drive into California, I was really surprised that it was like when we used to go to Florida as a kid. I don't know if y'all ever went to Florida 20, 30 years ago or 40 years ago. They would stop you at the border and ask you if you were bringing in any plants or animals, that kind of thing. Well, they still do that in California. They stopped us, except their concern was firewood. The first question was, do y'all have any firewood? I said, no, we don't have any firewood. Okay, we all have a good time. So we left the check-in and took off. Well, when we got there, when we got to the state line, David was driving. I think David was driving. Yeah, David was driving, and I noticed a sign that said, welcome to San Bernardino County. Well, I had been doing a little research, too, and I knew the place we were headed, Cyril's Lake, was in San Bernardino County. So in my mind, we're almost there. Do y'all know that San Bernardino County is the largest county in the country? You can fit Bartow County in San Bernardino County over 42 times. San Bernardino County is actually a little bit over 20,000 square miles. Georgia is 60,000 square miles. So San Bernardino is a third the size of Georgia. So even though we got to the sign, man, we was a long ways from Trona, which was our destination. We're headed to Trona. And actually, Trona is on the other side of the county because you walk outside of Trona and you cross over into another county. We were right there. But that's where we were headed. And so we get there, and we're looking forward to it. We got any golfers in the room? Y'all check this sign out. We happened to camp in front of the golf course, and it says, welcome to the Trona Golf Course. And can you see what this says down here at the bottom? Caution rattlesnakes. Now this is, 30 feet from our tent. Mm-hmm. So we were very vigilant about rattlesnakes. And if you are wondering what a golf course in the middle of the Mojave Desert looks like, there she is. Not your typical manicured greens. That's a golf course. And I've got a lot of buddies at church that golf, so I had to take this picture because they would have never believed me. Very, very neat area. It's totally different from anything I've ever seen. Born and raised in Louisiana, moved here 30-something years ago, lived in Mississippi for a while, so all my experience has been in the South. They told us how to find the campground by saying, look for the tree. Okay? So this picture is deceiving because those trees are like 6 feet and under. The tree they were talking about was a good 14 feet, and believe it or not, it was easy to find. So we set up there, and that was camp because we were now in Trona, and Trona has several digs over the course of the weekend. There is a mineral society there, the Trona Mineral Society, that is in the middle of the desert in a town that only exists because there is a plant out there that makes borax. They mine boron and other chemicals. If it wasn't for that, there would be no reason for there to be a Trona. However, this tiny little mineral society is probably one of the wealthiest in the country because of the digs they do 1 week in a year. They have a dig on, and David, correct me if I got this wrong. On Friday, they have what they call the dealer halite dig, which is a 4-hour dig. And then on Saturday morning, they have the Hanksite dig, which is an hour. And I'll go into a little more detail on them. And then in the evening, Saturday evening, they have the blowhole dig. And then again on Sunday morning, they have a 1-hour halite dig for those that are not dealers. Now, again, like I said, David and I are not dealers, but you don't drive 2,000 miles to hunt for an hour. So we went on and did the dealer dig. And most everybody else out there was indeed dealers. And they're showing up with crews of people. They were taking out minerals like crazy. We got our share on Friday and just had fun with it. It was a little windy in the desert. This is our tent. And I didn't even notice this till I was looking at these last night. Can you see that hump right there? That's my pillow. We're laying there asleep, and I feel something brush across my face. And, rattlesnake, you know? So I look up and I realize, you're instantly awake, but it's the tent hitting me in the face. This tent is laid over. And I'm, like I said, that's my pillow. David's on the other side, so he's not catching it quite as bad as me. We didn't care about the tent. We were there to rock hunt. So we got up, and the wind's blowing, the tent looks like this, and we said, let's go. Push come to shove, we'll go walking through the desert and find the tent. Amazingly, it was there when we came back. It doesn't make any sense to me, but David will back me up on this. The pegs had actually driven themselves deeper into the ground. So if my son let me borrow the tent, it was great. We brought it home with us. I was really afraid I was going to be buying him a new tent. Okay, so now it's time to dig. So you got to go to the clubhouse on Friday. You got to get there early. You got to check in. We get there, and there's lots of people milling around. There's a line starting to form, and I see a sign that scared me to death. It says, you must have pre-registered to do this dig. I knew I hadn't pre-registered. I done drove 2,000 miles to be turned down. And big letters under it says no exceptions. I'm thinking, well, surely they'll make an exception. Oh, please, make an exception. So I went up to David. I said, David, you got to pre-register. He said, I got us covered. All right, man, we're good to go. So you walk in the building, and they tease you with this stuff here. This is a bucket that was left the previous year. Sitting there for 1 year, and I don't know how this place operates because you're escorted in, you're escorted out, but apparently nothing is touched. These areas aren't dealt with because that bucket had been left there the year before, and as you can see, it's just covered in crystallization. This is a 2x4, and there's just crystals hanging off of it, and it's these crystals. It's stuff that looks like this. Spectacular. So, of course, you're getting pumped up. You're getting excited. And the thing in the middle, David, do you remember what that was?
I think it had grown over a drain pipe.
Yep, I think you're right. I think that was, they had a drain pipe had clogged because the minerals had just grown over it. And, but you walk in the door and this is the first thing you see. And you're like, oh man, I can't wait. And of course, if you've ever rock hunted or if you ever check out these sites for places where you can go pay to dig, that kind of thing, they're always going to put their very best stuff up front. You know, so you see these things and you're hoping, oh, I just hope we can find something. Anything like that will be great. So that's where we were headed. So we see this. This is why you go to Goodwill before you go rock hunting. The stuff you're in, and I'll show you a picture of that if I'm really quick here. This is how your clothes are after you take them off. After they start to dry, the solids in the water that you've been in solidify, and your pants will stand up by themselves. And it's funny because that I didn't throw away. I brought home with me because I wanted to show people. Well, guess what? Georgia has a very high humidity count, and mine are just as flexible as the day I wore them out there. But out in the desert, things stay that way. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to hit it kind of quick. This is headed out. This is where we were digging. This is what this stuff looks like. You get out there, and the truck is like right here. This is 100 yards or so of salty, sandy beach, and you got about another 200 yards to where you get to this material out here. And that's what we were looking for, and it's like mushroom shaped. You wade out there, you take a pick, you break these things up, you flip them over, and this is what you're exposing, is this right here. Beautiful material. But it will eat your shoes. Again, I've traveled over 2,000 miles to be here, and the bottoms come off of my shoe. Not a problem. As you can tell, we hit the redneck repair kit, grabbed the duct tape, taped on the bottom of my shoes, and we went back at it. We were not going to be deterred. This is what we were finding, guys. To give y'all a reference as to what size those pieces are, this is the tool that's in the picture. Yeah, we actually wound up borrowing an old military stretcher like you see in the movies guys carry, and that's how we carried this stuff out. Because although it's easy to find, it's a booger to get out. More pieces of it. Lots of folks do this. They line you up, you take off. The only time I beat David was when I found this piece right here. This is called Hanksite. You've got a 1 hour time limit to go out and find this stuff. They actually bring buckets of mud, dump them out. You go out there, you grab it, you wash it off with the stuff that it grew in, which is in that bottle right there, because water will melt this stuff. So you got to clean it, make sure you got something. We actually wound up buying some of the liquid so that we didn't have to stand there and clean it all. And it was incredible, absolutely incredible. And like I said, this was the only time I beat David. He nicknamed this the honeydew. He said he called his wife and said, that thing's bigger than a honeydew melon. So we've been calling it the honeydew for a year now. Another thing they do that's a lot of fun, they actually dig a hole, a 19-inch hole, and pump air into it, which causes a reaction that all this material blows out, scatters across the ground, and it's everywhere. I mean, just absolutely everywhere. You run out there and you're picking it up. This big chunk right here David found, that came out of a pipe. And it just, you go dig it up and you have a ball with it. Again, this came out of the ground clean. But now this picture right here is one of my favorites because as you can see, I'm standing probably dead center of the crowd. There's probably 2,000 people out there doing this. So you have, again, it's just a ball. We stopped by the Trona Pinnacles as we left. Those have been featured in several movies, including, I think, the Planet of the Apes 2. Left there. And guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up right here real quick. But I will tell you this. I named this California or Bust. Well, for a reason. We had truck trouble. We spent 4 days in a little nowhere town called Needles, California. This was our, where we stayed during the day in the parking lot. We're about 100 yards off of I-40. I can tell you the percentage of commercial vehicles versus normal vehicles because I sat there for hours counting trucks. I can tell you the most popular color of a truck is white, and I can tell you the least popular color is purple. That's all we had to do for 4 days. Wound up staying here, and this is a cool picture. This is where we stayed at night, and there's a lot of funny stuff went on. We had a ball here. You see that truck right there? That's the interstate. That's the closest to the interstate I've ever stayed in a hotel. We did manage to walk about 10 miles of Route 66. Unfortunately, it was the same half mile going back and forth between the truck and the hotel. And again, I could do another 2 hours on being in Needles, California. I will say this, they're in no hurry in Needles, California, because I think the reason being it is the first place you go it's the first place you come to where certain things have been legalized for recreational use, and their slogan is "Come grow with us," and they were in no hurry. Had some good food though there. That was pretty nice. To wrap it up, guys, I would have to say that if any of y'all are ever planning on taking a trip like this, there's 3 pieces of advice that I would give you. And these 3 pieces of advice not only apply to a 2-week rock trip, they apply to life in general, and they are, know who you're traveling with. That's real important. We met some people on the road that had partnered up, and turned out they just didn't really like each other that much. Know who you're traveling with. Be prepared for the unexpected, because you never know what you're going to run into. And most importantly, have fun where you can. Guys, I appreciate it. I encourage everybody to check this out. I'm going to grab this box of selenite, set it up here. If y'all have any questions, as long as they don't mind me staying in the room, I will answer anything y'all want to know. And again, guys, I appreciate y'all coming today. This has been sweet of y'all to do that.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I see Shirley's waving at you, Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. She is waving at me. I know y'all got a raffle ticket. Is there anybody that didn't get a ticket? If you didn't get a ticket, we're going to do this real quick. What I brought was, I actually brought a piece of the halite, and I've got it in this little case because it just looks fancy. But I will tell you this, I would not bring this home and set it out on a piece of furniture because this is Georgia and this stuff is still sweating. What I would recommend doing is keep it in something like this and put some of those silica packs in it to keep it dry. But my granddaughter is passing out tickets. As soon as she gets done with that, we're going to give this away to somebody.
Who else needs a ticket? Hands up. Anybody else need a ticket?
Well,
Okay.
one in the back,
One in the
Cal.
back.
And this shoebox right here has got the selenite in it. Please, everybody grab them one of those and enjoy it. And a big thanks to David. David brought most of the specimens today, and he wants y'all to enjoy them as well. If you're really, really brave, you will open that green bottle and take a sniff and see what the town of Trona smells like. But I will say this, don't just go, because then we're going to be picking you up off the floor. Sneak up on it. It's very powerful. And please don't spill it, because I don't want to get banned from Tellus.
All right, and we are drawing the winning ticket.
Please do.
I'm not looking. And the winner is, if I can find some light
you-
to see, ends with 995. Ticket
995. Who's got that one,
995.
guys?
Last 3 digits. No, we've got a winner.
We got a winner. All right, guys. Guys, again, thank y'all for coming out. And a big thanks to Tellus and the staff for having us here today. My wife and I are actually leaving here. We're going rock hunting this weekend. We're going to go look for some rubies, and we're really looking forward to it. So I hope y'all have as good a weekend as we're planning.
There are several members of a variety of rock clubs here today, so if you're interested in speaking to anyone, raise your hand if you are a member of a rock club. Look around, ladies and gentlemen. You can chat with any of these people if you're interested in joining a rock club. Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate you. Another round of applause, please.